Today is Thursday, December 22nd. We'll tell you what Ukraine's president said to U.S. lawmakers during his historic visit to the Capitol, and what a new report from Republicans says about who is to blame for the January 6th Capitol riot. Also, we're keeping an eye on that massive winter storm sure to impact holiday travel, what to expect, and later, what to do if you find your flight canceled. Plus, remembering an iconic NFL moment as fans say goodbye to one of the greats, who will likely be the newest NBA owner. And a new feature sheds light on the TikTok algorithm. Those stories and more coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, about 215 million Americans are now under some kind of winter weather warning or advisory, and a lot of people are already in the thick of it. As the National Weather Service put it, this is not your ordinary cold front. That's partly because of how quick the temperatures have been dropping, and by how much. In Cheyenne, Wyoming, yesterday, the temperature went from 43 to 3 degrees in a matter of 30 minutes. And today, the high temperature in Denver, Colorado is expected to be -2 degrees, the chilliest high in more than 30 years. Meanwhile, wind chills as low as 70 degrees below zero are now possible in the high plains. On top of the extremely cold temperatures, today could bring more than a foot of snow in the states that surround the Great Lakes. And strong winds could sweep across the entire eastern half of the U.S. tonight, which brings the threat of power outages. So several officials across the U.S. are declaring states of emergencies to free up resources to respond to this storm. Making all of this more complicated, more than 100 million people are expected to travel long distances for the holidays coming up this weekend. But the weather has already led to thousands of canceled or delayed flights. Driving could also be dangerous in many places due to low visibility from the snow or icy roads. Greyhound buses and Amtrak trains have already canceled dozens of routes. Later in this episode, we'll share some expert tips about dealing with these travel disruptions. In a packed House chamber, Ukraine's president gave a passionate, emotional speech to American lawmakers. President Volodymyr Zelensky told them Ukraine needs more aid and weapons to defeat Russia. And he made it clear that it's not just the fate of his nation being threatened, but democracy worldwide. Zelensky received several standing ovations from the hundreds of lawmakers on Capitol Hill, but not all of them support a huge new spending package for Ukraine that's being considered. Congress is likely to vote soon on another $45 billion for Ukraine. And some Republicans say they want to see more accountability for the money being spent. Others criticize Zelensky's whole trip as political theater. Still, the spending package is expected to pass, since other Republicans and Democrats are voicing strong support for it. Separately, President Biden announced a nearly $2 billion military assistance package for Ukraine. And as expected, that one includes the Patriot system, which is the most advanced surface-to-air missile system Ukraine has received yet. This is the 28th time the U.S. Pentagon has pulled weapons off the shelf for Ukraine. But during Zelensky's visit, President Biden promised to back Ukraine as long as it takes. As for Zelensky, he already headed back to Ukraine after thanking all Americans for their support. A lot of talk out of Washington this week has been from the January 6th committee in the U.S. House as it wraps up its investigation. The panel, made up of mostly Democrats, already recommended the Justice Department charge former President Trump for his role in the Capitol riot. And today, it's expected to release its full report. But first, 5 Republicans put out their own report about the Capitol riot. And instead of Trump, theirs mostly blames Democrats and Capitol Police leaders for what happened. It says House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other Democratic leaders were closely involved in security decisions and that Republicans were left out of key meetings. The GOP report also mentions that federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies got specific warnings about violence ahead of January 6th, but didn't do enough to prepare for it, which is also what an investigation in the Senate found last year. But the full report from the January 6th committee is expected to be a lot different, since it'll mostly be centered around Trump instead of security. When the final report comes out today, the committee's work will be over, though the Justice Department's separate investigation will continue. In the midst of one of the worst flu seasons in years, the Biden administration is making more medicine available. It decided to release extra doses of the prescription flu medicine Tamiflu from the Strategic National Stockpile. So states that have been running low can request more. There's not an official shortage right now, but the medicine has been hard to come by in parts of the U.S. since flu cases are so common right now. So far, the CDC has recorded at least 15 million cases, and more people than usual for this time of year have ended up in the hospital. Keep in mind, flu season doesn't typically peak until January or February. Tamiflu can be prescribed to everyone from senior citizens to babies as young as 2 weeks old. But the FDA makes it clear this is not a substitute for a vaccine. More news is still coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Did you know that the popular horror movie Scream wasn't just some made-up story from the mind of a creative screenwriter, but it was actually inspired by real-life crimes? The Moms and Murder podcast talked about this creepy connection in their recent episode based on true events. Moms and Murder is a true crime podcast hosted by quick-witted friends Melissa and Mandy. Whether you're looking for something a little more true crime light or something more serious, Moms and Murder is sure to have something that catches your interest. No wonder they hold a spot in the top 100 true crime podcasts on Apple Podcasts. These moms balance their delivery of facts and levity, making you feel like you're sitting in the same room having a conversation with them. Be advised that Moms and Murder is undergoing a name change, so ring in the new year with the new title Moms and Mysteries, highlighting a real crime every Tuesday. Subscribe to Moms and Murder. Simply search their name on whatever app you're listening on right now. Just open your podcast app of choice, type Moms and Murder, then hit subscribe. That's Moms and Murder, soon to be Moms and Mysteries, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Inflation or not, new data reflects some good news about the U.S. economy. Consumer confidence jumped to its highest level in 8 months. Researchers behind the Conference Board survey say that's because people are feeling more optimistic about their current financial situation and the state of the job market. Still, fewer Americans surveyed said they plan to buy big-ticket items like cars, appliances, and homes. Other data that came out this week backs that up. It shows sales of previously owned homes fell for a 10th straight month. That's the longest such stretch since 1999. And again, experts are pointing to mortgage rates. They've surged to above 7% as compared to 3.1% at this time last year. In other words, many people who want to buy now could end up paying hundreds more dollars a month than they would have if they bought a house for the same price in 2021. Of course, this drives a lot of would-be shoppers out of the market. But some real estate agents say this could turn around in the new year if more homes become available and prices drop. Stay tuned. 2 people who used to be top executives in the world of cryptocurrency are now pleading guilty to fraud. One of them is the co-founder and former chief technology officer of the crypto trading firm FTX, and the other was the chief executive of a cryptocurrency hedge fund. And the SEC says they both took part in a scheme to deceive FTX investors. Now their lawyers say they're taking responsibility, not just by pleading guilty, but they've also both promised to help prosecutors build their case against the man who's accused of really orchestrating the fraud, Sam Bankman-Fried. He's the other co-founder and former CEO of FTX, and regulators have accused him of diverting billions of dollars in customer money for other uses. And he was very close with the 2 former executives who are now cooperating with authorities. The 3 all live together in a penthouse in the Bahamas. Now all 3 could end up spending decades in prison. Up next, Sam Bankman-Fried is expected to appear in a federal district court as early as today. He's in FBI custody, being brought back to the U.S. from the Bahamas. In the coming weeks, TikTok says it'll roll out a new feature that will list the reasons a video is being recommended to you. So you might see specific reasons you're seeing a video, such as the accounts you follow, content that's been posted recently, previous interactions you've had, or videos growing in popularity in your region. TikTok says you can find this in your For You feed once you tap the Share panel. Then you'll see a button labeled with a question mark icon called Why This Video. Reports say it's likely all part of TikTok's growing effort to be more transparent in the face of criticism for its ties to China and other concerns about harmful content, especially for young people. Football fans around the world are saying goodbye to the player responsible for what's often considered the most iconic play in NFL history. Hall of Fame Steelers running back Franco Harris died at 72 years old. He's most famous for the play known as the Immaculate Reception back in 1972. Harris swooped in and grabbed a pass meant for another player right before it hit the ground and ran more than 50 yards to make a game-winning touchdown. And with that, he and his team were ranked among the NFL elite. Overall, Harris won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers. After he retired from the NFL, he opened a bakery in Pittsburgh and became chairman of a local group that provided scholarship opportunities to local students. The Steelers plan to retire his jersey number during a halftime ceremony at their game this weekend. Over in the world of basketball, a team sale is breaking records. Billionaire mortgage lender Matt Ishbia agreed to buy the NBA's Phoenix Suns and the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury, and he's agreed to pay $4 billion. That's a huge sum, especially when you consider that the Suns don't own their arena and have never won a league title. But Ishbia already says he's excited, calling the purchase a dream come true. This sale could also end the tenure of current owner Robert Sarver, who was recently suspended in the wake of an independent investigation into his conduct and the team's workplace culture. The NBA does still need to sign off on this deal, though. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's that time of year that causes me to start reflecting on my life more than I usually do. And some years, if I'm feeling sort of stuck, I found that it can be helpful in these moments to talk it out in therapy. Whether it's related to a career change, new relationship, becoming a parent, or just wanting to do the small stuff a little bit differently, therapists are trained to help you figure it all out in a way that is true to you. Well, as the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/newsworthy. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Thing to Know Thursday. Since winter weather may cause some headaches for travelers this holiday, here's a roundup of expert advice that could help. First, see if it works for your schedule to take advantage of airlines' travel waivers to leave earlier or later to avoid the busiest times. Already this week, major U.S. airlines like American, United, and Southwest said they'll let people reschedule their flights with no change fees. But no matter when you fly, stay up to date with the status of your flight. That means make sure you get emails and texts from your airline and consider getting their app alerts too. The sooner you're aware of a major change or cancellation, the more success you'll likely have taking the necessary next steps. And that brings us to the next tip. Get a new flight ASAP if needed. You certainly won't be the only one scrambling to find a new way to your destination. So the Wall Street Journal suggests get in touch with the airline in more ways than one. That means you might be waiting in line at the reservation desk in person and calling the airline at the same time. And you may even use the international line instead of domestic number, since wait times can be shorter. And while you're at it, message on the mobile app and on Twitter to see where the airline responds the fastest. That said, if you don't want to rebook, know your rights. You're entitled to a refund if your flight was canceled. Hopefully, though, you won't need any of these tips. Wishing you smooth travels this holiday season. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.